My name is Claire Thompson, and I am 35 years old. On the surface, I live as an ordinary woman working for a cleaning company. But my family always gazed at me coldly, as though they were full of contempt. Claire is doing cleaning work again? That's so embarrassing at her age. Every time my brother Ethan said things like that, my heart was wounded little by little. Ethan bragged to everyone around him that he was an elite businessman, drove luxury cars, and brought a new girlfriend almost every month. My family treated him as a successful man and treated me as the shame of the family. Whenever my mother talked about me in front of her friends, her expression would darken. She's always been slow. She didn't grow up in a wealthy home, so she's not refined. I heard her say that behind my back more times than I could count. My father acted in the same way. At family gatherings, he treated me like a servant, giving me orders like clear the plates or make some coffee. The hardest part was how I was treated at the annual family birthday party. Held at a fancy restaurant, I was the only one made to wear an apron and was put in charge of serving food and cleaning up. The guests mistook me for a helper and casually gave instructions like, "Could you clean up a little more neatly?" Or, "Can I have some more water?" Claire is good at housework, so she enjoys taking care of everyone. Every time my mother said that, I felt anger quietly building inside me. It wasn't that I was good at housework, I was being forced to do it. The situation was no different at extended family gatherings. My cousins had all found success as doctors, lawyers, or accountants, and I was always introduced as Claire the janitor. I wasn't even allowed to speak in front of them, I was just someone who sat there silently. If only Claire had studied a bit harder, maybe she could have gotten a slightly better job. When my aunt said that, all I could do was grit my teeth and endure. In reality, I had graduated from university with excellent grades, but no one in my family remembered that. All they remembered was that I had struggled in job hunting and ended up working at a cleaning company. Ethan's girlfriends also looked down on me. So that's how different a brother and sister can be. It's nice how quiet and modest Claire is. On the surface, it sounded like praise, but I could clearly sense the contempt behind their words. However, deep in my heart, a different plan was quietly unfolding. I wasn't the incompetent cleaner they thought I was. While my family looked down on me, I was secretly accumulating what I called my war funds. My cleaner's salary wasn't high, but I had another source of income. I took on web design work online at night, and on weekends I worked as a freelance programmer handling small projects. I had taught myself all the technical skills. I devoured old programming books borrowed from the library and took free online courses, gradually improving my abilities. Even when my family saw me sitting at the computer, they assumed I was just playing games or something. In reality, I was spending 3 to 4 hours every night learning technical skills. I started with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, then expanded into Python and database design. At first, I handled small website projects, but eventually I was entrusted with larger ones. When I built an inventory management system for a company, I earned a reward of $4,170. In another case, I made $6,670 by customizing an e-commerce site. My family believed my income came solely from my job as a cleaner. But I was actually earning $1,670 to $2,500 a month from side gigs. I never told my family about this income. I saved all of it as capital for investment purposes. I even opened a separate bank account at a different branch so my family wouldn't know. I hid the passbook and card in my work locker and took every precaution to ensure my family never found them. 5 years ago, I began a small-scale real estate investment anonymously. It started with a unit in an old apartment, which I renovated and subleased for profit. Using the profits from that, I invested in slightly larger properties and gradually expanded the scale. My investment strategy was cautious and reliable. I conducted thorough market research and analyzed location conditions and future potential in detail before purchasing a property. I also made use of my experience as a cleaner to determine which properties would be easier to manage and yield long-term profits. Because my cleaning job took me into various buildings, being able to assess the structure and condition of facilities firsthand was a major advantage. This building has old plumbing, it's going to be a problem later. With this location, I'm sure I can find tenants easily. These on-the-ground instincts helped guide my investment decisions. When I purchased my first property, the real estate agent looked down on me. "Can a cleaner really afford a property like this?" he asked in a rude tone. But I will never forget the look on his face when I paid in full with cash. I kept living a life where I worked as a cleaner during the day and spent my nights studying investment and doing side jobs. I only slept about 4 hours a night, but my hope for the future kept me going. Even under the scornful gazes of my family, I steadily increased my assets. By the second year, I owned 3 properties and earned more than $50,000 a year in rental income. In the third year, I expanded further and even purchased a small office building. My family still believed I was a poor cleaner, but in reality, my annual income had exceeded $166,670. With the success of my investments, I began planning something even bolder, entering the hotel industry. It was an ambitious plan that started with small business hotels and aimed to eventually acquire luxury resort hotels. Then, last year, a major opportunity finally came. The luxury hotel Ocean View Resort in Hawaii, which my family used every year, was facing financial difficulties and was put up for sale. Without hesitation, I submitted a bid and successfully purchased the property through an anonymous investment firm called Pacific Hospitality Group. The purchase price was $125 million. The business I had started 5 years ago, with just tens of thousands of dollars in investments, had finally succeeded in a transaction worth over $100 million. But this was only the prologue to my plan for revenge. Every year, my family spent Thanksgiving vacation at this hotel, staying at a discounted family rate. They had no idea that the hotel had changed ownership and continued treating the staff with their usual arrogance. According to reports from the hotel staff, Ethan boasted himself every year, saying, "I'm an important customer," and demanded room upgrades and complimentary services. My mother was the same, insisting, "We've been loyal guests for years," and expected special treatment as if it were a given. I had been receiving detailed reports from the hotel staff about my family's past behavior. Every time I heard how they belittled the staff and acted entitled, my resolve for revenge only grew stronger. As usual, my family planned to spend their vacation at this hotel this Thanksgiving. I told them I'd arrive a day late due to work commitments. In reality, I had already checked into the hotel the day before and was holding final meetings with the staff. The stage for my revenge was perfectly set. I had given specific instructions to the hotel staff, who picked me up from the airport in a luxury car. I will be checking in under the name Claire Thompson, but under no circumstances should my family be told that I am the owner of this hotel. When I reunited with my family in the hotel lobby, their attitudes were exactly the same as always. My mother frowned at my modest clothes and sighed. "You could have at least dressed better. It's embarrassing to see your clothes in such a luxury hotel. Claire, can you carry our bags to the room?" Ethan said casually. "And take everyone's suitcases too. You're used to heavy lifting, aren't you?" I was humiliated in front of the other hotel guests who were watching us. But I nodded silently and started carrying the bags. In my heart, I was finalizing the last part of my revenge plan. While carrying the luggage to their rooms, I overheard their conversation. "I'm glad we got the family discount again this year. It's helpful having Claire around to work for free. She's a cleaner, so this kind of task suits her." Each of their words only fueled the fire of my revenge. but I kept a calm expression and carried on silently. At dinner, my family was enjoying a luxurious meal at the hotel restaurant. As usual, I was seated at the far end of the table and was asked to run errands like, "Bring me some wine," or "Can you replace my napkin?" "Cleaners should at least help with the cleanup," my mother said. And at that moment, I made my decision. There was no need to endure any longer. I looked my mother straight in the eyes and quietly stood up. As the attention of the entire restaurant turned to me, I raised my voice. "I have an announcement to make." My family stared at me in confusion. The surrounding guests also turned to see what was happening. "My name is Claire Thompson. I am the CEO of Pacific Hospitality Group and the owner of this Ocean View Resort." Silence fell over the restaurant. My family's faces were drained of color. "As of today, we no longer provide family discounts. I hereby declare that all guests will be treated equally. Any arrogant behavior toward the staff will no longer be tolerated." My mother opened and closed her mouth, but no words came out. Ethan turned bright red and tried to stand up, but my gaze froze him in place. "This can't be real," my father finally whispered. "For the past 5 years, while you were all looking down on me, I've been steadily building my wealth. While working as a cleaner, I studied investment at night, earned extra income through side jobs, and succeeded in real estate. And now I own the very hotel that you've been using all these years." I signaled to the hotel manager. He approached me with great respect. "Is there anything we can do for you?" At that moment, the entire restaurant froze. Not just my family, but all the other guests were staring at me. The woman they had once called Claire the cleaner was in fact the owner of the luxury hotel where they were staying. The next day, I dropped another bombshell. I revealed the results of the investigation I had conducted on my brother Ethan. "Ethan, I know that you've been pretending to be an elite businessman." At the breakfast table, I calmly began to state the facts. "In reality, you are unemployed. Over the past 3 years, you've dated 7 different women, borrowed money from them without paying back, and implied marriage to extract even more funds." Ethan's face turned pale. "What are you talking about?" "Lily Anderson, Sophie Carter, Olivia Davis. Shall I continue? Each of them was deceived by you and lost large sums of money. Yesterday, I submitted their testimonies and evidence to the police. I showed them the case acceptance number I had received from the police station on my smartphone. They have confirmed marriage fraud and criminal fraud charges against you. An arrest warrant for you has been scheduled to be issued by next week." My mother spoke in a trembling voice. "No, Ethan couldn't possibly be a fraud. That's right. The son you all praised as a successful man was actually a swindler who deceived women and took their money. The luxury cars and the upscale apartment, everything was purchased with money from the women he conned." Ethan stood up and tried to flee the hotel, but I had already informed the hotel security in advance. The guards politely but firmly detained him. "Claire, you." That was the last thing Ethan spat out. After that, I gave my family a thorough education. First, I billed them for their stay at the full rate. Without any family discount, it was $416.67 per night. For 4 nights, the total came to $1,666.67. When I handed the invoice to my father, his face quickly turned pale. "There's no way I can pay this kind of money. In that case, you are free to move to another hotel." However, all other luxury hotels in Hawaii are currently fully booked. The only available rooms are at the hotels owned by my group. In fact, I had coordinated with other hotels in advance to make booking during this period extremely difficult. My family was left with only 2 choices: stay at my hotel or move to a cheap, run-down inn. With tears streaming down her face, my mother apologized. "Claire, I'm truly sorry for everything. I had no idea you had become so incredibly successful. Successful? I gave a cold smile. I haven't changed at all. 5 years ago, and now I'm still the same Claire Thompson. The only thing that's changed is how all of you see me. I instructed the hotel staff to reduce the services provided to my family's room to the bare minimum. Room service was canceled. Towels were to be changed only once every 2 days. Housekeeping was simplified. You've all looked down on me for being a cleaner. So now, clean your own room. You'll get to experience firsthand just how hard my job really was. Trembling with humiliation, my father started apologizing profusely to me. Please, Claire. Put everything back the way it was. No, this is the reality. If you don't have the money, you don't get the services. When I was being looked down on as a cleaner, did any of you even once think about how I felt? By the time Thanksgiving vacation came to an end, my family's attitude had completely changed. They spoke to me respectfully and carefully watched my expression as they addressed me. But to me, the true victory wasn't their change in attitude. The true victory was that I no longer needed anyone's approval. Sitting alone in the hotel owner's office, drinking coffee, I gazed out at the beautiful ocean view. The woman once looked down on by her family as Claire the cleaner has turned out to be a businesswoman with assets worth several $1,000,000. But more important than anything was the fact that I had learned to define my own worth. Without being swayed by others' evaluations, I had carved my own path through ability and effort. That was the true meaning of success. On the final night, my family offered to reconcile. With tears in her eyes, my mother said, "From now on, we want to respect you and support you as a family." I quietly listened to their words, but I no longer needed their approval. I understand how you feel, but from this point on, our relationship will be entirely equal. I no longer live to be acknowledged by anyone. After returning from Hawaii, my life changed dramatically. I quit my cleaning job and decided to focus fully on my real estate investment business. Pacific Hospitality Group grew rapidly, acquiring multiple hotels not only in Hawaii, but also across Japan. Ethan was prosecuted for marriage fraud and sentenced to 2 years in prison. I personally paid compensation to the women he had deceived. I understood their pain. I had known what it was like to be looked down on by my own family for many years. My parents began to boast about my success to those around them, but I kept my distance. While I remained in regular contact, I no longer attended family gatherings like I once did. I had formed new relationships. Business partners, hotel staff, and investors, none of them looked down on me for having been a cleaner. They evaluated me purely based on my skills and achievements. For the first time, I experienced truly equal human relationships. A year has passed since then. My company has grown into a business with annual revenue exceeding $8.33 million and over 50 employees. Media interviews have increased, and I am often featured as a successful female entrepreneur. However, I have never hidden my past. I spoke honestly about my time as a cleaner and the contempt I endured from my family. I believed that doing so would encourage others who were in similar situations. What's your secret to success? People often ask. My answer is always the same. Never depend on others to define your worth. Decide it for yourself. And no matter how much you're looked down on, never give up on your goals. Meanwhile, my family's situation changed drastically. With Ethan in prison, my parents lost their social standing. Neighbors began to look at them with suspicion, calling them the family of the fraudster son. My father's health declined, and he was forced into early retirement. My mother withdrew from her social life and became isolated at home. Ironically, I had become the only success in the entire family. They sometimes asked me for financial assistance, but I never gave in. I calmly responded, "Please learn to live on your own." It was the same attitude they had once shown me. Ethan was released from prison 2 years after his arrest. However, reintegrating into society was not easy. Very few companies were willing to hire someone with a fraud conviction, and he was eventually forced to make a living through day labor. The man who once drove luxury cars was now commuting to construction sites by bicycle. His upscale condo had been seized, and he is now living alone in a small, old apartment. I received several letters of apology from Ethan. He wrote, "I truly regret looking down on you, and please give me a second chance." But I never replied. I believed that true remorse should be shown through actions, not words. One day I received a report that someone had applied to work as a cleaner at one of the hotels I owned. When I learned it was Ethan, I had mixed feelings. During the interview, Ethan looked thin and worn down. There wasn't a trace of his former arrogance, he simply kept bowing his head. "Claire, please. Let me work. I've thrown away my pride and everything else. I just want to live honestly and work hard." I looked at him for a long time. And then, I made my decision. "I'll hire you as a cleaning staff member. But you will receive no special treatment. The same conditions and the same pay as any other employee. And do not tell anyone here that I'm your sister." With tears in his eyes, Ethan thanked me profusely. "Thank you, Claire. I promise I won't cause any trouble." Today, I own multiple hotels and real estate properties, with total assets exceeding $41.67 million. The woman once called Claire the Cleaner is now a highly regarded entrepreneur in the industry. Ethan works diligently as a cleaner at one of my hotels. He's never late, never complains, and completes every task assigned to him. He's earned the trust of his coworkers and is slowly regaining a more humane way of life. My parents still bow their heads to me to this day. It took them time to accept that the daughter they once looked down on had become the most successful member of the family. They now say that they genuinely respect me. However, what mattered most to me wasn't their change in attitude. It was that I had changed. I no longer needed anyone's approval. I had learned to define my own worth. That was the true victory. Sometimes I remember the days when I worked as a cleaner. Those days were undoubtedly hard, but it was precisely because of that experience that I became who I am today. The time I spent being scorned and looked down on was not wasted. Everything led to the success I have now. And then I understood. True revenge is not about humiliating others, it is about achieving overwhelming success yourself. While my family was looking down on me, I was quietly but steadily building my strength. And now I'm in a position to control everything. The woman who was once dismissed as just a cleaner has now become someone that no one can ignore. This is my story of revenge, and at the same time, my story of true success. I proved that no matter how much you're looked down on, if you continue to believe in yourself, the path will